Yep, there we are.
Scream.
Yo!
Yeah, I can hear you if you scream.
Okay, I'll scream
Have to
all the
scream,
time.
right? Bolzano.
Yeah.
Here we come. Motherfucker Jones. Probably a man's gas.
Knacker. Right at the end of the
Yes,
Stelvio.
it's right into the garage. That's his gas.
Right at the end of the Stelvio. It's like... See you after lunch, love. I'm just going to fucking ride the Stelvio. Alright, I'm not going to spend an awful lot more time talking about Wednesday. Wednesday, we came down from Chur over Stelvio Pass into Bolzano in Italy. And as soon as we came over Stelvio Pass into Italy, the weather just kind of picked up. There's this weird kind of big old set of valleys in northern Italy or Tyrol where there's a weird kind of microclimate. And so we had come from like fairly non-vegetation, not wasteland, but just sort of like it was October and it wasn't, you know, particularly verdant. And so we came down into Italy and there's just apple farms everywhere and little tractors running around, you know, with loads of apples, and it was just pleasant and warm. So we went and found a place close to Bolzano and kind of set ourselves up there, and we ended up actually staying there 2 nights, the Wednesday night and Thursday night, because the roads around here were pretty nice, and we wanted to sort of take it handy and stay somewhere for more than one night. So yeah, that was Wednesday, and I'm gonna do up on Thursday. We just kind of went out and had a bit of a mess and took it easy, and I set up the rear camera, so we'll just flip over into Thursday and the area around Bolzano. So one of the less positive gear experiences has been the Santa 10U, which I was going to do sort of a video on. You probably heard it, you know, in the last couple of videos with myself and myself ever talk to each other. It does what it says in the tin. We happen to get these because we both happen to own the helmets that they're done for as special kits. So I've got a Neotech and he has an Arai something or other, and so that works out nicely, and they're nice bits of kit, except when it's not fucking working. So day 2 or 3 of this, of being used fairly constantly, I started sort of getting really faint in his headset until eventually he couldn't hear me at all. And we were trying to figure out what this was, and it was pretty annoying, and I actually fired off an email to where I got it from and asked them if they'd seen it before, and it's like, nope, but return it if you want, which is fairly sound of them, but that's no use to me halfway up the Swiss Alps. But so eventually what happened as well is that the other remote control for his unit just died, just seized up. And so that's not great. So not top marks Sena 10U. And so at the moment I have that on and I can kind of hear him, and that's about it. So that's not great. I mean, being able to have intercoms and chat while we're out on the road certainly changes the dynamic of the trip and the ride. So it's a bit disappointing that stuff kind of messed up after a while, but you know, you get on with it. I mean, check that shit out. I'd rather be turning around corners and looking at that shit than talking to this fuckface. But as for the bike has been flawless. It's just, you know, the bike is kind of designed for shit like this, you know, doing longer trips and just being a comfortable bike. But I've been up on this bike for, you know, 6 or 7 hours the last couple of days, and while it's difficult, it's a comfortable bike. You know, it's not, as I said before, it's not the GS, but it's getting on as comfortable as it, which is good. One slight mishap with the bike is that, I don't know if you can't see it on the video, is that there's a couple of pins at the front that are holding on the the windshield, and some circlips kind of shook loose, and one of the pins shook itself loose and disappeared. It's not actually affecting anything. You can still put the windshield up and down, but obviously it's a missing part. And so I checked the other circlips and sort of taped the remaining pins on so they don't shake themselves loose, which they were in the middle of doing. I seem to remember this was a thing with the GS as well, that there's some pins here in the assembly that just occasionally fall out, and you know, fuck you, and they want 20 quid for new ones, which isn't great, but we'll see about that when we get home. And the last, I guess, gear related thing, which is specific to me, I guess, is the helmet. Man, having your helmet on for 7 or 8 hours a day for a week will really test the fit of the helmet, and I discovered that my helmet might be ever so slightly too small, and so I ended up with some unpleasant consequences on my forehead for the last couple of days. It's just been not raw, but you know, just not great over the last little while, and I've been taking the lining out and washing it and drying it every night, but even still it was not great. So you know, it's the kind of thing where if you're wearing your helmet for a couple of hours at a time and it's grand, and then next minute you're wearing it every single day, all day, it might not be grand. So it's the kind of thing that you don't really spot before you go off on a trip like this. And the other thing I was sort of nervous of beforehand, but you know, has been okay, is just my general skill level. Like, I mean, these are challenging roads, and I'm still kind of, you know, I'm still learning. Everyone's still learning, but I've only been up on bikes 3 or 4 years, and 99% of that has been inside of Ireland, where you really don't get roads like this, that are switchbacks and big sort of twisty paths and stuff like that. And we were only saying the other day, like, just like roads that go through a random village just have big sweeping curves in them for no good reason. Like, it'd be a perfectly straight road if it was in Ireland, right? But they just seem to have big curves in roads here just out of badness. I don't know whether it's like supposed to be a traffic calming measure or something like that. And so even in fairly normal switchbacks like this, I'm still fairly slow through them, because you know, you got to trust the bike and you got to trust a lot of things, and I'm still kind of getting used to them. Even though I've done about 11,000 of them in the last 3 or 4 days, I'm still kind of occasionally bottling them and clutching in and doing things I shouldn't do, but it's all good practice. I'd say if you did this for a few weeks, you would be getting some serious good experience and practice, and I feel like I am doing that. And so today is probably the first day we've been out without all the luggage on the bikes. We have we've been staying in, you know, different place every night up until last night, where we sort of said, you know what, fuck it, we'll stay here tomorrow night as well. We found a nice little place close to Bolzano in Italy. We said we'd stay there and we'd have a proper day to you know, do a bit of riding without all the crap on the back of the bikes. So we did a bit of internet research and figured out some routes to take, and just sort of only kind of half sticking to them, which is grand. And so there's quite a bit of difference in how you can sort of throw the bike around a bit, and you're less nervous of shit flying off or the weight of the bike shifting or anything like that, and so that's good. Especially with a sports bike, like chap here is riding this, that like he had a whole bunch of Kriegel luggage on the back of it, which can really kind of flap around and displace. There are some fruit. Would you like some fruit? Because we have all the fruit. Also cunts. There is a cunt. Man, that's actually the first example I've seen of the proper hyper-aggressive driving that, you know, I saw before when I drove here in Italy. I don't know whether, like, I know it's tarring people with the same brush, but there are particular, you know, driving cultures in various parts of the world, and in Italy it's like just real aggressive in places. So there's your man, passed within inches of me, is trying to bruise his way past that bus in his tiny compact car. Whoop. Maybe I'll go around you, truck.
Those three German lads are fast, aren't they?
Yeah, just pissed.
I kept up them for a few minutes, but
Nah,
okay.
I didn't even see the cunts, they're just like boom.
Three of them gone. Yeah.
Didn't even see them in the mirrors. The first lad scared the bollocks out of me, passed me.